When it comes to sharing God's story, you can also share just a brief overview of the story of God and people in the Bible. And sometimes it's helpful to understand that story a bit like a drama with different acts in it, and we can each become a player in that. So the first part of the drama, the first setting, the first scene is really the creation story, how God made the world and people, and then he made us perfect and to have a relationship with him. And then rebellion and evil entered, and it sidetracked the human race from where we should be going. And so it began, that's scene one. And then the second scene is how that God sent a flood and catastrophe, and how the human race with Noah started over again after the flood. And then we go to the third big drama, which is really God's people in covenant with him, where he chooses Abraham and his family line, and how he makes them his special people to show what God is really like. And their journey is an up and down journey. Sometimes they follow him, sometimes they don't. But it's a real life story, and God enters a special relationship and a special agreement with them. It's called a covenant, and he promises them that he'll be their God if only they'll follow him and listen to him. And then finally, the most important part in the drama is the fourth scene, of course, where the Messiah comes, the long-awaited return of God to this world. And he comes down, surprisingly, in the form of a small baby born in a manger, born in Bethlehem. He grows up as a man, and then he begins to teach, to heal people, to show what God was like. And the interesting thing is that this isn't just another religion. This is something quite different. This is God interacting with people. And then, of course, Jesus was crucified. After about 33 years, he was crucified, and then he died and rose again on the third day. And many people saw him alive after he was crucified, and that he'd come back to life. In fact, the Apostle Paul, writing a few years later, could say there's at least 500 people. Most of them are still alive, and you can go and talk to them if you don't believe me. And so Jesus rose from the dead and went back to heaven. And then he called his people a new community, which became known as the church. But the church became many other things. But it was really a faith community of people who were seeking to follow Jesus, seeking to make disciples, seeking to love each other. In the earlier times, they were known as the people of the way, and the people that had a reputation for just loving and caring for people. And they're also peacemakers and seeking to improve people's lives. And this is something that was very attractive to many people about the story of Jesus. And then the final stage is still in the future, where Jesus says, I'm going to return and I'm going to restore all things. And so it's a restoration, and he's going to change this world, get rid of the things that have happened that denote evil, the pollution, the destruction of the environment, the evil and the hurt and the pain, and he's going to recreate things new again. And so we can be part of that story. We can be part of that drama. It's an incredible drama, and there are aspects of the story that haven't been written yet, because we can be part of that story as we develop a relationship with Jesus, and we go out to share about his kingdom, about his the new order that he's beginning to establish, and how it's changed our life and how it can change your life. So telling the God story, having an overview of how evil entered and how there's a struggle between good and evil, can be really helpful for people who may not be familiar with the story of the Bible. We mentioned a little while ago about bridging conversations and also questions, asking questions. And this is an important tool, if you like, in being able to talk to people about what's important to you and about Jesus. And so, as you listen to people, you can ask questions based on what they're sharing, their stories, their experiences. And also we can ask questions. And sometimes I've asked questions when it seemed appropriate, such as, would you like to have a real sense of peace in your life? Would you like to be at peace with God? That's a real open question that they can respond to if it's appropriate. Another question would be, to you, who is Jesus? Who do you think Jesus is? And I've asked many people that question, and sometimes people have been a little surprised and said, oh, I didn't expect to be asked that question. I said, no, it is a big question. Who do you think Jesus is? And then just listen to what they say. Or it could be about their family. What do you dream for your family? I was talking to one tradesman and I just said, what are your dreams for your family? And we had this really interesting conversation. What do you hope for your kids? What do you want for them as a parent? So learning to engage in a normal conversation and not become religious, but just to naturally let the conversation flow into spiritual areas. What do you think is going to happen in the future? Do you know the Bible actually says some things about that? Have you considered the story of Jesus? So learning to ask questions and learning to just bridge a conversation in a natural way towards a spiritual area is a really important tool to learn.